My ideal concession stand is really a convenience store inside your cinema. You might be offering aspirin, you might be offering blankets, pillows, you might be offering different things to keep that going, but the idea there is the same. It's really a convenience store sitting right inside your concession stand that you would walk into the same way you would any convenience store.
This is the Box Office Podcast. I'm Daniel Loria, the editorial director of Box Office Pro, the pulse of theatrical exhibition, here with my colleague and co-host, Chad Kennerk, also from Box Office Pro. And in this week's episode, we will be covering everything about the Dine-In Cinema Summit that's coming up in the second half of this episode with a special guest from this year's event. But before we get there, we've got news and box office forecasting to catch up on. And I have to start by asking, Chad, you saw Companion last week. We saw it do pretty well at the box office, a $9.5 million debut. Any new releases that you caught ahead of this weekend's titles coming up?
Gosh, no, I haven't seen anything else since, unfortunately. I know we have a couple things coming up in the next few weeks, but what about you?
On my end, it's all CinemaCon all the time, like everybody else in this industry. I know that Monday through Friday, you're tied up with putting this magazine together that we're currently finishing up. And to our friends in the vendor community, even exhibitors, if you want to be included in that CinemaCon print edition of Box Office Pro magazine, don't forget to get your advertising in. Reserve deadline is coming up soon, so email patricia.martin@boxoffice.com to make sure you're included in this year's edition. Our editorial is like 90% committed, 90% there, but we still have a whole design and proofing to go through. I think we both wish we had the time to dedicate to movies. Unfortunately, like you, Chad, not that much. And this weekend is the Super Bowl, or so I'm told.
That's right.
So not a huge weekend at the box office. We've got two new releases here. We've got, kind of confusing because the titles are similar, even though the content won't be, from Universal, the romantic action comedy Love Hurts. Is that a fair way of describing this title?
Yeah, I think so. I know I had screenings for both of these this week and I couldn't go to them. But yeah, it looks fun.
We're currently tracking that to open between 8 to 12 million. And with the same tracking, it's a dead heat between Love Hurts from Universal and Hard Eyes from Sony, also on pace for an $8 to $12 million opening weekend. It's hard to figure out if the rom-com action comedy is going to finish up in first place, or if that horror crowd, which is always surprising by their loyalty. Sony's horror-themed romantic comedy here, opening up on Super Bowl weekend. This one, I don't know. It piqued my interest knowing that it has a rom-com element with horror elements in there. How interested are you in catching this Hard Eyes from Sony?
I'm always up for a good slasher. I think it's an interesting villain with the Hard Eyes mask. I saw some promotions.
It's a cool mask, right?
Yeah, it's a cool mask. I saw some promotions where they were doing like a photo booth and people were taking photos, and then one of the walls dropped down and someone in that mask was right
just
there
comes
scaring
out and
them.
Scares you. Great. Yeah. That's not even, that's from like Candid Camera from the 60s. You don't need to reinvent the wheel.
No, not at all.
Give people a good jump scare, have a cool mask, slasher in there. Sure. Type of movie that I'll probably end up catching at some point, like on a Tuesday afternoon once we finish this print edition. So I can't wait. Like we said in our opening segment here, dead heat between both those titles on who's going to end up in second place here, because we do expect first place to continue being Dogman from Universal. Chad, a great overperformance on opening weekend, above the highest of a pre-release forecast, $36 million debut. The kids market, the family market, has a new title to enjoy for the coming weeks. And beyond those titles, we've got some programming updates here. Chad, it looks like our friends in the cinema side of the world are getting those Oscar Movie Festival special screenings going on. I love that this is a tradition and exhibition. What details do we have from who's participating in screening some of these Oscar movies?
Yeah, we've already heard from several chains that are inviting moviegoers to catch up on some award contenders and get ready for the award season. We've heard from AMC, Regal, Cinemark, and Marcus. AMC is doing their first 24-hour marathon since 2019. starting at 12 p.m. on March 1st and ending 24 hours later. That's just at select locations, and then 100 locations around the country will have a 2-day marathon, and that is on Saturday, February 22nd and Saturday, March 1st, so right before the Oscars on March 2nd. And then similarly over at Regal, they're doing their Best Picture Film Festival from February 21st through March 2nd. They're also offering on the concession side a $7 combo. And Cinemark is also doing their annual Oscar Movie Week Festival from February 24th through Sunday, March 2nd. And then finally over at Marcus, they're doing their Best Picture Showcase as well. And they're also screening the animated and live action short films. And, they're also doing a viewing party for the Oscars, which is really fun at several of their locations. Something that Metropolitan Theaters is also doing at their San Clemente location, where they're doing an Oscar watch party and having some samplings of their menu items.
I always like when theaters can lean in to the Academy Awards and find a way to have a simulcast of the actual awards show. I know it's tricky, so please make sure with your film booker, with your film department, to make sure that this is something that you are allowed to do. We have heard in the past some movie theaters that tried to put something together last minute, maybe didn't really comply with the legal requirements, so we don't want to get anyone in trouble.
Right.
These are folks that have had this organized, ready to go, or announcing it at this point in time. So please do make sure with your local film representatives to make sure that everything's above board if you are planning to show the Oscars event at your cinema. You mentioned Marcus earlier, and AMC is doing this as well. Something I really like from both these circuits, they announced a Black History Month rep series with some movies coming back into theaters.
Right. AMC from January 31st through February 27th is screening a number of films under some different categories. One's Echoes of Greatness, a celebration of Black music icons. Then they also have Inspiration and Resilience, Love and Legacy during Valentine's Week, and the Thrills and Laughs duo. So some of the films in there, Piece by Piece, The Fire Inside, Challengers, Bad Boys Ride or Die. Some of the films they're showing there to celebrate Black filmmakers, actors, trailblazers.
Yeah, great initiatives here on the circuit side. That wraps up the programming part of our news segment, and we do have to give an executive update because our friends at AMC, big news here, a couple of promotions and a big departure from a longtime executive over in Kansas.
Yeah, Nicole Denson Randolph has been promoted to Senior Vice President, U.S. Chief Content Officer, and Juan Antonio Gomez, the Chief Partnership and Content Officer at Odeon. Elizabeth Frank, who was the AMC's former head of worldwide programming and Chief Content Officer, has stepped down to become the CEO of Real D, the 3D cinema technology provider.
That's a big, big hire. Elizabeth Frank, very familiar name here in the industry for many years, had become a reference over at AMC, taking on a big job at Real D at a time when the company is ramping up for the release of the next Avatar title. We know that the momentum that these Avatar movies can bring the 3D industry is crucial. So it's a great hire, in my opinion, for Real D to go out, get a longtime veteran of this space, one with so much success like Elizabeth Frank from AMC, tap her as the new CEO of Real D to make sure that she's installed and ready to make sure that 3D continues being a viable premium format for movie theaters. I think it's fair to say in the last 5 to 7 years, 3D's lost a little bit of the ground right now in the PLF boom. But the fact remains, Chad, a lot of theaters out there have the capacity to play 3D films. And if you can go back to even just part of that success that the format enjoyed in the first half of the 2010s, I think that's going to be a nice complement for this PLF strategy moving forward for exhibitors. That wraps up our news and programming segments. Coming up after this message from our sponsors at Agile Ticketing Solutions is our feature where I'll be speaking with folks over at the Dine-In Cinema Summit happening this week in Austin, Texas.
Since 1999, Agile Ticks has been revolutionizing cinema box offices with innovative point-of-sale and web ticketing solutions. Their platform streamlines concession management, enhances customer engagement, and provides actionable real-time analytics. By bridging the gap between operators and their audience, they turn ticket buyers into lifelong patrons, driving success and creating unforgettable cinema experiences.
And we are back here at the Boxoffice Podcast special edition, coming to you not live. We're recording this, but we are recording this from the actual Dine-In Cinema Convention and FEC shows, let's say, meeting space. I'm here with Michael Jacinto, the VP of Sales over at Proctor Companies. Michael, welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me back.
And an apology to our listeners if it's a little bit crowded in terms of background noise. It's because, as I explained a second ago, we are here speaking in a room full of people, a very well attended, a sold out Dine-In and FEC show here in, I believe it's 6th or 7th edition.
Seventh year.
7th year. Michael, you guys have been here since the beginning, right?
Yes, we have attended every one except for the first one. And we have sponsored the last 5.
So it's been a while. You've seen this show grow to where it's at now. Not only the show itself, but also the FEC space. We know Proctor Companies is a leader when it comes to having a good F&B architecture design strategy for your cinemas. You guys are expanding more and more in the FEC space because that's where cinemas are going these days.
Absolutely. What we're starting to see is that exhibitor owner look at, where do I go to get more money out of my space? What gives me more dollar per square foot? That, in our opinion, comes from the F&B side, adding quality food and beverage and enhancing the guest experience, getting them to stay longer. The longer they stay, the more they spend.
Yeah, that's an ideal concept, not only for the cinema space, as you mentioned, also as we see more entertainment venues really lean into everything that's experience focused, everything that gets people out of the house and into their complexes. And you've seen firsthand just the number of FEC venues, not even cinema chains, but FEC venues that are adding cinema components into their complexes. Is this something we can call a trend today?
I think it's a long-standing trend that has been happening, although it is rising slowly. I think the most prominent example of this is the Revel Surf Park that's opening up in June in Mesa, Arizona. It's a fully functional surf park where you can go surfing, and they're adding in a 6-screen cinema onto the property also.
So it's kind of like when you say surf park, I've never heard of this concept in my life. It's a wave pool, I'm assuming. And
massive.
A massive wave pool.
With massive waves. They're teaching you how to surf.
That's crazy. In Mesa, Arizona, a place where obviously if you want to surf, you're kind of stuck there. You kind of have to take a flight, or you can go to this complex.
Right? And everything's right there. Now everything is right there at your fingertips. Not only can I go surfing, now I can go watch a movie. Now I can get something to eat. It's a community complex, so to speak, that's adding in all of these entertainment aspects into one space. Once again, the longer you stay, the more that you spend.
Yeah. And you see how cinemas are now coming into these sort of complexes. I think 20, 25 years ago, it wasn't odd to see an entertainment center pop up. But I think the new thing now, as you mentioned, is how cinemas become a central part or a central component of these destinations to get people out of the house. From a design perspective, what's the difference between tackling a client like this one in Mesa, Arizona, and let's say a new 12-screen complex in the suburbs?
Well, what we're adding into a space here is a technology that allows that customer to tap their card when they're walking into, say, the concession stand, pick up blankets, they can pick up pillows, they can pick up slices of pizza, hot dogs, an expanded food menu, a wide variety of not just 8 fountain sodas, but peace tea, all of the things that go in along with that, the energy drinks, the Starbucks drinks, and walk right out. It charges to their card, where I'm not waiting in line to get rung up. I'm not having to deal with the labor of paying somebody to ring somebody up. We're seeing this a lot. We're also working with another company up in Canada Power Play Entertainment, they've added Amazon Go technology to their concession stand, which allows that consumer that has an Amazon Go account or an Amazon account to walk in, pick up what they need, and walk
and
right
walk
out,
out.
and it
I don't know
charges.
if our listeners are aware of this concept. They've had some retail stores in the past. Basically, you walk in with the Amazon Go app, link to your Amazon account, you buzz it in, and you can just grab anything you want and walk out the door. No need to go through a checkout line, anything like that. It's a really seamless technology. It's great to see that entertainment destinations are adopting these. How far are we from seeing this technology in cinemas, do you think?
We are working on a few spaces now that are up and coming to implement this technology in. Does this technology ever 100% overtake the industry? It absolutely does not.
Right.
There are going to be spaces where the customer is king and they should be treated as such, and they'll be served and their drink will be handed to them. They're not going to be handed a cup. But there are those places that we're seeing in larger major markets where labor is tough. It's just difficult to find staff. And in addition to finding that staff, that particular customer, they don't want to talk to anybody. I just want to go in, I want to pick up what I want, and I want to get right out.
Yeah.
And these are the places that they're gravitating to that appease their sense of purchase and how they want to be treated.
Now, when we talk about the technology that we have, we talk about new builds and renovations. That's something that Proctor is very closely involved in. How are the spaces in F&B of today different than they were of 5, 10 years ago?
Well, the nice, wonderful part about these spaces is that some of them have stayed the same size. We've implemented new equipment. We've put in hoodless technology that have allowed them to expand a menu to give them a full dine-in experience without the cost of redoing ventilation. In some instances that I've told for the past couple of years, we can expand your menu to 3 or 4 different items with 2 feet of space, no hood.
Yeah, and that's crucial right now in the dine-in space, where expanded menus for the last decade has been one of the biggest trends in dine-in cinema.
So we're seeing these spaces go from popcorn, candy, soda, maybe pretzels, hot dogs, and that cheese cup, which is great, don't get me wrong, with the prepackaged chips, to now we're offering nachos with brisket and fresh vegetable to go on top of that. Now we're able to offer not just that hot dog in a bag with a cheese sauce on it, but now we're offering a Chicago dog. We're able to offer a California dog. We're putting avocado on things.
Right.
And we're doing these things in spaces and giving these menu items access to people that you might not have that in your space, say in Oklahoma City. You might not be getting that, but it's there now. Now we're able to do that with the amount of equipment that's come out, with the ideas and the concepts that we're able to implement. And we're able to do it at a lower cost to most of our clients than ripping out your entire stand, shutting it down for 2 weeks, putting this in place. And then we're also able to do it with the equipment to allow it to be run with a reduced amount of labor.
That's an ideal thing because, as you know, these F&B spaces are the lifeline economically for a lot of cinemas in this industry, making sure that can still operate as you're making improvements, making sure you're up to date with these things is such a crucial component. Now, we're here in Austin. We're here, as I mentioned earlier, in a packed dine-in convention show. What are some of the topics that you're most interested in learning more about while we're here?
So I just got out of a panel on AI. It is fantastic. The leaps and bounds that AI is making over the last 6 months have been phenomenal. I watched him put together an entire ad campaign right there during the panel. It took him 3 minutes to get it together. And we're talking about AI generated videos. It was fascinating. There's a panel coming up later with the members of Creative Works on how to implement FEC concepts, bowling, laser tag, things to that effect into your existing space. I'm fascinated to see how that goes. There's another panel coming up that from an architectural or a design standpoint of how do you manipulate your building, or if you're doing a new build, what are the things to key, to add, to take a look at, and to stay away from.
Yeah, I think important things to look at, especially as AI shapes the future of not only this industry, but many others. Now, from a more tangible perspective, Proctor has the cover page of this month's print magazine of Box Office Pro. Can you give our listeners a little bit of context behind that image? What are we looking at when we look at that image on our cover?
Well, thank you. The cover turned out beautifully. We absolutely appreciate it. We love working with you and doing those things. That is the Lucky Strike Prize Redemption Center, what they call their prize vault in Northfield, Colorado. We put that together with their design. So we designed that from top to bottom. We put in the different cubes at the front that allowed different prizes. We put in and designed the round gondolas that you see there, to the point too where we also created the bowling pin and manufactured the bowling pin that goes on the top in that cover.
A new revenue line for you guys, I'm sure, coming in, bowling pin production?
Well, hopefully not. I'm not sure that we were terribly cost effective in creating that one, but it did work out really well. Lucky Strike was absolutely, they were enamored with their end product. It was better than the photos that they had initially sent from concept. What it became was, what we all know what the Redemption Center is. It's the last touch before the guest leaves your building. They can have a fantastic time in your space for 2 solid hours, spend a ton of money, and when they go to redeem their points, if it's dirty, if it's dusty, if it's not well lit, if the music doesn't play, they will walk out and their experience will say, it was okay, not it was great.
And that's a big, big difference. That last touch point before you leave, it really encapsulates the entire experience when you leave the home. And these spaces, Michael, I think it's important to remember, cinemas are now getting into merchandising. You look at a movie like Nosferatu, yes, they're selling at $20,000 sarcophagus. Maybe you're not going to have a redemption center or a merch booth with that. But as you're incorporating more studio products or movie merchandise products into your retail strategy in your cinema, you're not just selling popcorn now. You're maybe selling candles, you're selling lunch boxes, you're selling t-shirts. Proctor can come in and help with the design on that. So not only your F&B strategy is there in a presentable level, also your merchandise strategy is effective. The worst thing you can do if you make an investment, I think, in merch is have it hidden in a corner next to a dusty arcade machine that no one's used since 1997.
Well, absolutely. One of the things that we put at our forefront, we're doing this for the Revel Surf Park also, is we have 4 gondolas that sit right out in front of all of their merchandise. Once again, bathing suits. If you're going to the movies, we're talking about blankets, pillows. We're talking about popcorn. As we all know, wow, those popcorn buckets are amazing.
They're selling. They're selling out fast for a lot of folks.
And they're limited edition. They're bringing people back. Merchandising has become a piece of the concession stand now that sits out in the forefront. It can't sit in the back. It can't be in an unlit cabinet someplace. It has to be out front because they will keep coming back for it.
And that's another transformation. It's not just FEC. It's not just more restaurant and dining options. Cinemas are retailers now. And we really have to step up to that challenge, make sure your retail strategy, your merchandising strategy is up to par with your F&B and how you present that.
We talk about, for us at Proctor, what's the ideal concession stand? Well, my ideal concession stand is really a convenience store inside your cinema.
Yeah.
You might be offering aspirin. You might be offering blankets, pillows. You might be offering different things to keep that going. But the idea there is the same. It's really a convenience store sitting right inside your concession stand that you would walk into the same way you would any convenience store, with the exception, of course, of Buc-ee's, which is fantastic. But you would walk in, you would pick up whatever it is that you need. You might self-check out. You might do any of those things. You might zip in with that technology, Amazon Go. The more barriers that you take away from the client, it gives them the option to purchase more. And that can be something as simple as them not asking for a product, them being able to easily find it. That can be something as simple as not putting a door in front of something. They might buy more. Is that 2 packages of M&Ms?
Right.
It could be. Is that 2 slices of pizza that you're eating in the dark? No one's going to see.
No judgment here, of course.
Absolutely.
But what I like about this is also the fact that it doesn't only make sense for new builds where you can really design anything from scratch, but for renovations, you see box office areas. You remember the box offices of the 1990s? You had these big spaces where you get a lot of people through. In a lot of these existing cinema buildings, that box office space is abandoned. You have a lot of actual real estate, a lot of space in that lobby area or close to the entry point and exit point of your cinema that you can recreate and renovate to find space for these merchandising opportunities. It's about executing it with the right design so things are prominently featured.
It's about lighting them up, using that box office space to really put a spotlight and shine on what's available inside your building to everybody that's driving by. Because now you're not just showing movies anymore.
That's true.
You might be serving great food. That needs to be showcased in a way so that as people drive by, they know what you have going on there. The other piece that we look at doing with some of those empty box office spaces is, can we move that? Can we turn that? Can that become your party room? Can we put that with windows coming out so that people can come by and see that?
Yeah.
Can that be a private auditorium for you and 2 or 3 friends so that you can have a nice intimate showing of whatever movie it is that you want with the luxuries that come with your food and beverage program? I want to go see a movie, or sometimes it's even, I want to go see a movie, but I don't want to watch it at home because then I have to make my own things. I have to do those other things. I'd rather go out, but I don't want to be in a big crowd. So that is available to you now with private auditoriums. Those are a big piece that we're seeing too. That absolutely works. But shine a light on what you offer. Make yourself unique. And those box office spaces, those party rooms are the great way to do that.
And it's not just that space. One of the things I see a lot in cinemas that were built in the 2000s or maybe the late 90s is a lot of unutilized space, right?
Huge lobbies for no reason.
You don't need it anymore. And if it's empty, you're missing revenue opportunities.
People don't show up at the movies 30 minutes before to make sure they get a good seat. They don't have to. Your wonderful ticketing options that you've given them that allow to purchase a ticket online, some of those guys are coming in a minute or 2 before previews. Some of those people are coming in 10 minutes after the previews have started. So now we don't need that large lobby space. We can put in different things. We can put in those arcade games. We can create those fun spaces, those Instagram walls, those TikTok spaces. We can brighten them up and make them interactive spaces to create experiences for your guests.
And that's at the center of this, at the center of the dine-in revolution, at the center of the FEC revolution. Make sure that your location is experience friendly, and that's what Proctor Companies specializes in.
Absolutely. We've done that on multiple occasions with multiple chains around the country to provide spaces that enhance your guest experience and allows them to really create a moment or a memory that they want to share with their friends. You allow them to tag your theater in whatever form of social media, and you take advantage of the advertising of somebody's great time and great experience, and that doesn't cost you anything.
Well, Michael, thank you so much for joining us. Looking forward to everything else we're going to experience here at the Dine-In Cinema Convention.
Thank you for having me. It's a great time.
And a big thank you to our guests here on the Boxoffice Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and rate. New episodes drop on Thursdays, and we will talk to you again next week.